Hi, I'm Suzanne Morrison. I have a show here at Bumbershoot called Yogo Bitch. About 2 months I spent studying yoga in Bali. And I'm at Bumbershoot. What else am I supposed to say? So much fun. I love doing festival shows because there's such a great energy, there's such a good vibe, and we had people lined up in I think 2 or 3 rows on the floor on the actual stage with me, which the show is very it's very personal, I guess, and also, you know, I do a lot of direct address with the audience. I'm pretty much telling a story directly to the audience, and so having people practically at my feet makes it even more fun. I really just love that. Well, definitely it's easier to do anything in front of a group of people you don't know. Now, this is my hometown, so this is one of about I've done a few shows here in town of Yogo Bitch, but it's a little bit hair-raising doing it in front of my family. I come from a huge family, and of course they all want to come see it. And I'm like, well, Mom, you know, I talk about wearing like leather butt chaps and having clothespins on my nipples, and you know, is that going to be okay? And my mom was horrified by that, but my aunts, my Catholic aunts, were like, we loved that part. That was so funny. We loved the part with the clothespins. I don't know. Go figure. But no, it's I don't know. I think it gets easier the more you do it, revealing yourself in front of a group of strangers, and it starts to feel really, really awesome. Like it's kind of like a drug, and you want to do it more and more and more. And I feel like that's finally where I'm at with Yogo Bitch. I've been doing it for about a year now, and I feel like I'm at a point where I want to do it all the time. I want to do it every day. It's so much fun. Yogo Bitch is a story based on 2 months I spent studying yoga in Bali, Indonesia, with a bunch of somewhat old school type yogis, I would say. And the story's been compelling to me because it's sort of where 1960s style yoga, which is very earnest, very serious, very much about the healing processes and finding God, really, meets the current yoga trend, which is very commercial and very much all about looking sexy in your yoga clothes and, you know, tightening things up so you're a really good lover, and my response to both of these camps, basically. It's about the contradictions in the yoga industry, but also the contradictions in myself, because I definitely like the idea of, you know, clamoring for the divine and finding God and being healthy, but I also like to smoke and drink and, you know, have a good time, so that's pretty much what the show's about. And there's piss drinking. Apparently, it's a rather common New Age practice to drink your pee on a daily basis. Well, that's a really good question. I'd say it's a combination of the two. Certainly, when my family's in the audience, it's a constant reminder of the fact that the story I'm telling is autobiographical, and that I might be telling things to my family that I've never told them before. But you know, they're pretty good sports about it all, so that's fun. But I do think that there is something that happens at a certain point where I feel like once it's been through enough rounds of edits, basically, when the show has been honed down to the stage at which it's as close as it's going to get to being the story I wanted to tell, like when I've shaved all the rough bits off. That's when it starts to feel a bit like its own entity, like it's no longer just my experience, but it's something that's been heightened. It's taken on a form not unlike fiction, but it's not fiction. It's true. But there's I guess a coherence to the text or to the performance that starts to make it feel like an offering, to use a yogic term, like something that is a creation that you're offering up to people. Yeah. It starts really with the development process that I go through with my director. My director's name is Jean-Michelle Gregory, and she works pretty much exclusively with solo performers working with autobiographical material. And our rehearsal process that we go through with this show is I basically sit back and I tell her a story, and I might like improvise some movement or something like that, and we'll start linking these stories together, and each time she'll say, okay, so when you said this, you need to clarify that you mean this, or when you say this, it sounds really stupid and lame, so can we find a fun way to say it? Or, so we'll just sort of edit as we go with each storytelling. And it's sort of like bar stories, like stories that you tell in a bar to friends. Everybody has one story, at least, that they're really, really good at telling, that they know when they get the laughs, they know when people are going to lean in. And so it's a bit like crafting a show out of, 18 of those stories that are linked together. It's similar to that. But then, yes, it's not like the first time I put the show up, it's a perfect creation. When I did the show in London a year ago, it was the first full production the show had gotten, and we didn't even have a complete script by opening night. We were changing the ending the day of opening, and drove the producers absolutely up a wall because they kept saying, "Hey, we need a script for the lighting designer," and we'd be like, "Ooh, we don't have one." So after the London run, then I actually sat down and typed up a script because most of the stories were somewhat improvised, and they over time start to cohere. They become more or less set. They'll still change from show to show, but the basic principles of each story become gelled, so to speak. So eventually we have a somewhat finished show, and even then, Jean Michel will still give me notes afterwards, and it'll still be changing. It's a back and forth all through the rehearsal process. I mean, it's definitely like a co-creation. I come with an outline and some stories that I want to tell, and we really do work together to make the story what it is, to give it the arc that it has, and to really clarify which themes we want to focus on, because especially when you're dealing with a show about yoga and the yoga industry and spirituality and things like that, it can lend itself to having way too much material, which is something I've tended towards, that I want to talk about everything from the commercialism of this spiritual practice to, your id going totally out of control the second you try to start reining it in, and all of a sudden you want to have sex, and you want to drink, and you want to smoke, and you want to eat all of this bad shit. And, so I wanted to talk about all of these different things, and it really was a process of figuring out, okay, which storylines are the most compelling, and Jean Michel's awesome at helping with that. I'm looking forward to a run of Yoga Bitch here in Seattle at Rebar on Fridays and Saturday nights in September and October. So I'm gearing up for that right now. This is kind of a nice way to launch into that run, because that run starts September 19th, and so I'm really excited for that. And then Yoga Bitch is also a book. It's a memoir that I'm in the process of working on right now, which explores a somewhat different side, but it's very different what you can approach on the page than what you can do in the theater, and so it's really fun to be able to explore the story from a totally different artistic perspective. I've been working on that for a long time. I have a new show I'm starting to develop called Your Own Personal Alcatraz, about growing up on an island and my parents' friendship with Ted Bundy, and short fiction. So I'm a pretty busy girl.